Unconventionals. Today we're going to talk about two of the most popular cities in Latin America for foreign residents.
These cities are located in two different countries, but they both have a lot in common.
They're easy landing zones with a lot of expat-oriented services, and they both have multiple visa options.
If you're thinking about moving to Latin America, there's a really good chance you have one or both of these cities on your short list.
So in this video, we're going to discuss the pros and cons of each to help you decide which is best for you, starting with Medellin, Colombia.
My first impression of Medellin is it is a jungle with a city in it.
It was so beautiful. We absolutely loved having all of the greenery around us. Plus, it is surrounded by mountains. It actually sits in a bowl. And it's nice because it has lower elevation. It's just around 5,000 feet.
Also, the weather is amazing year-round. A lot of people think it feels like spring all year. The city is also really vibrant with lots of bright colors and beautiful murals. We stayed in the neighborhood of El Poblado, but we visited several other neighborhoods while we were there,
which we really enjoyed. And one of the things I really liked about it was the variety of people. You've got a lot of tourists, there's a lot of digital nomads, people from all over the world. We heard so many different languages. We also met other expats that had lived there for quite a while and some retirees. So you've got a nice variety of people, and everybody was so nice, especially the locals. They were just so warm and welcoming.
The city was also really clean. We saw in some of our comments that it may not be like that throughout the city, but in the neighborhoods we visited, they had the street cleaners who were out sweeping up the trash and keeping the leaves and the limbs and the dog poop picked up. And we just were shocked at how clean it looked.
Well, and I was impressed to see all the dogs on the leash anyway, because we're so used to people having dogs off leash throughout Ecuador, and that was not the case in the neighborhoods that we visited.
Yeah, we saw a lot of dog walkers too, with 5 or 10 dogs on leashes, and they would be walking down the street, the dogs walking behind them while they were on their mobile phone, scrolling social media while they were walking a bunch of dogs.
Yeah, that's impressive, especially because some of those dogs were really big. I would be afraid I would get yanked off, but obviously they were very well behaved.
It has a really modern infrastructure, and you can drink the tap water, although it's really highly chlorinated. It was like pool water coming out of the faucet. The nice thing about chlorine though is it evaporates at room temperature. So I would pour water into our jugs and stuff and just leave it open out on the counter. And within a few hours or overnight, most of that chlorine had evaporated off. So water tasted pretty good after that.
It did, and I got used to it pretty quickly. I was really happy to be able to just pour right out of the tap. I really appreciate that. And I also loved the wide variety of restaurants. If you are a foodie, or if you just want traditional Colombian food, or if you have special dietary needs, you are gonna find it in Medellin.
Public transportation is widely available. You're gonna find taxis all over the city, and they're really affordable. We only spent maybe $2 or $3 on most of the cab rides that we took. Buses are also running throughout the city, and they have a metro that runs down the center into El Centro, which is really nice. And you can call Uber. We actually really like Uber because we don't have to worry about communicating where we're staying in a foreign city. We don't know the neighborhoods that well or the address. So it's really nice to be able to put in that destination in the Uber app, so we don't have that confusion with the taxi drivers.
Medellin has an international airport with direct flights to some places in the United States, and they have added, or they will be adding, a direct flight to Quito, and we are very excited about that.
Yeah, it'll be a lot easier for us to go from Quito to Medellin and spend some more time there. We are really looking forward to that.
The city is affordable, as is the entire country of Colombia. Where we stayed, it was more expensive for housing, but you do have a lot of other housing options in the city, which are really safe and very affordable. Plus, we found the food and restaurant prices to be comparable to what we have experienced in Ecuador. So it's going to be a lot less expensive than what you're used to paying in the United States or Canada.
Colombia is also known for its high quality health care. We saw several clinics and hospitals that looked super nice from the outside. Thankfully, we had no need to use them while we were there.
High-rise condo living is very popular in Medellin. However, if that is not your thing, you do have other options. Townhomes and single-family homes are available. You might just have to go a little bit further out.
As we like to say, no place is perfect, and Medellin definitely has its cons, starting with it is really freaking crowded.
Yes, we were not used to that coming from Ecuador, which is much smaller countrywide than Medellin. And there were a lot of tourists, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I enjoyed the tourists and the people watching and all the digital nomads, but you may not like that.
Yeah, the population in Medellin is about 2.5 million people. And compared to the next city we're going to talk about, that is like 5 times the size.
It's also on the Colombian peso, and we're so spoiled being on the US dollar, so that was tricky because the conversion rate is pretty significant.
Yeah, it's 5,000 to 1. So it's really strange to go to the grocery store and pay 20,000 pesos for a loaf of bread.
I didn't like the traffic, and those swarms of motorcycles really freaked me out. I know you would get used to it, but maybe, I don't know, I probably would always be a little bit on guard. And one of the drivers told us that you really have to be careful. He was really good about pulling his mirror in so that the guys on their motorcycles could drive through without getting hit, which was very considerate. But he also said that you need to walk against traffic to make sure that they are not coming up behind you to rob you. So that is a concern.
Yeah, we're just not used to that here. We don't have the motorcycle swarms in Ecuador. We also have not seen those in Mexico to this degree. We were told that it's actually cheaper to finance a motorcycle for your daily use in Colombia than it is to take public transportation. The buses, one of our tour guides told us, end up costing more each month if you have to go to work 5 days a week than it would be if you just bought a motorcycle and financed it. So that's why there are so many more in Colombia.
Besides moto robberies, pickpocketing is also an issue, especially in the tourist areas, so make sure you pay attention to your surroundings.
Colombia actually ranks pretty low on the safety index. According to World Population Review, it's 144. That is a lot more dangerous than both Ecuador and Mexico.
And we were told by multiple people to not go out at night in some of the more dangerous areas, including El Centro, that we needed to be out of there by 6 p.m. We walked around at night in El Poblado and we were fine. However, we also go to bed at like 9:30. So when I say at night, it was dark, but it was not late night.
Yeah. And finally, you might be considered a tax resident if you stay there more than 183 days per year. So you're going to want to talk to a qualified tax professional before you make any decisions about moving there long term.
About 1,000 miles south of Medellin is the next popular expat haven, and that is Cuenca, Ecuador.
Yeah, these cities might not seem that similar, but actually they kind of are. We felt like they were actually very similar in terms of cost of living and quality of life and things to do. And a lot of people are considering both of these cities. So it's definitely a comparison that's worth doing.
Cuenca is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It has a lot of history, architecture, and you've got the Inca ruins right in the city, which I love.
Yeah, there's beautiful rivers that run through the city and with the linear parks that run along the rivers with nice trails. Very relaxing, plenty of benches to sit and read a book. Super beautiful in terms of nature and scenery.
It has great weather most of the year. You have mild temperatures. It is known as the land of eternal spring, which is great if you like spring-like temperatures. I was often chilly in Cuenca, although we lived there in a weird time when there was no sunshine, but typically you're going to get a mixture of sun and clouds throughout the day.
With those mild temperatures, you don't need heat. There's no heat or air conditioning in the homes. That saves on your gas and electric bill. And it's just nice not to have to worry about that.
Cuenca is walkable. We walked all over the place, and rarely did we need to take a taxi unless we were really loaded down with groceries or we were going from one end of town to the other.
One of the best things about Cuenca are the restaurants. I always say it's like a cruise ship. You got great food and lots of things to do. The food is incredible. It's plated beautifully at most places. It's extremely affordable, extremely delicious. You're gonna love going out to eat there.
You've got a large expat communities, and it's popular with both retirees and families and singles from all over the world and all ages.
Yeah, a lot of people ask us if we know any single women that live here, single expat women, and we know a lot, surprisingly, a lot in Cuenca and in the coastal cities, a lot more than you would expect.
Although we did see a lot of single people walking around by themselves in Medellin as well.
In terms of English speakers, you're going to find a lot more in Cuenca than you will in Medellin. We actually did not see a lot of service providers like at restaurants, at cab drivers, Uber drivers, store clerks. No one spoke English in Medellin, so you're going to need to know more Spanish there. In Cuenca, it's not exactly like that. In fact, Cuenca has the largest population of English speakers throughout Ecuador. So it's a lot easier to land there if you don't speak any Spanish.
But don't let that fool you. You still need to learn Spanish for both places. The locals are very helpful, they're very friendly, and even if they do not speak a lot of English and you're struggling with your Spanish, they will help you through it. We found them to be very gracious.
We were also big fans of healthcare while we were in Cuenca. If you go to the hospital without any sort of referral or recommendation, you might not have the same experience, but we got recommendations from other people and our insurance broker and other doctors, and we got referred to really high quality medical professionals who most of them studied overseas in other countries. They spoke English, and the cost is extremely affordable.
Cuenca is affordable. The housing prices are a bit lower compared to some of the really popular neighborhoods in Medellin, but overall the cost of living is pretty similar, and that is about 1/3 the cost of the United States.
You can drink the tap water in Cuenca as well, just like in Medellin. However, we did not think it tasted like pool water. It's chlorinated, but just not over chlorinated. So we actually thought the tap water tasted really good.
And it is on the US dollar, which makes it super easy for us US Americans.
A lot of people told us that we're going to notice our dollars going further in Colombia when we visited, but we just didn't see that. We went and priced a lot of the things that we buy, like lotion and food and the staples that we have in our house, and they were almost identical once you do the math conversion, the complicated 5,000 to 1 math conversion in your head. We felt like the prices were almost identical to Ecuador.
As of this moment in time, there is no tax on foreign income for foreign residents, but things change here in Ecuador. We are not tax professionals and we are not tax savvy, so make sure to consult a professional before you make any decisions.
And since we also say no place is perfect, Cuenca isn't either. And one of the downsides is that it's at 8,400 feet above sea level. That is almost 3,500 feet above Medellin, so the air is a lot thinner.
And it is cloudier there and cooler, especially in the mornings at night. And as I mentioned earlier, there were times when I was pretty chilly.
Yeah, there were times where we were bundled up watching television on our sofa with our outdoor clothes. I had a stocking cap, we had blankets on, so sometimes it does get really chilly there at night.
Yeah, we had to go and buy a space heater, and that is not uncommon. I have heard some of the newer construction is starting to add some heaters in there, but I wouldn't count on it.
There is no international airport. They did just add a kind of direct flight between Cuenca and Miami, but it still stops in Quito. You just get off the plane and reboard, so it's not totally a direct flight, but it is a much more convenient time frame. So that's one of the downsides, especially compared to Medellin, where you can go to multiple cities in the US direct.
That's because the Cuenca airport is teeny tiny, and I know it says it's an international airport. It is not.
Only Guayaquil and Quito are truly international airports as of right now. They are talking about adding flights in Manta to other foreign cities, but those have not been added yet.
And unfortunately, the crime has increased in Cuenca and throughout Ecuador, so that is disturbing and concerning. It's mainly petty theft, but certainly something that you need to put on your radar and factor into your decision making.
According to the World Population Review, it ranks number 79 in 2022, so that's actually a lot better than Medellin or Colombia at 144.
And the service quality is lacking compared to other countries. We've gotten used to it, but boy, it was a nice change when we've gone to some other places.
Yeah.
It's not that they're rude, because they are not rude at all. They just don't have the same type of mindset because they have such a tranquilo attitude here, which can be a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, it can be a little frustrating. One of the funny things we've noted in Ecuador is when we go to a restaurant, they take your order and we order drinks and an appetizer and then our entrees. And oftentimes the entree comes, then the appetizer, and then the drinks at the end when we're completely done eating. That is not the case anywhere else that we've traveled throughout Latin America. That is uniquely Ecuadorian, and it's still perplexing to us, to the point now where we order our drinks, and then when they come back to deliver those, we order the appetizer, and then when they bring that, we order our entree, just so we get it in the order that we want.
Yeah, it's just one of those cultural quirks that you need to get used to. It's not that big of a deal. You just adapt.
Yeah, in Medellin, they kind of did American style, or I guess the style that we've experienced everywhere else on the planet, where they actually bring things in the proper order. And the service in Medellin was incredible. They were very attentive, and they paid attention. They came back. They didn't wait till you were completely done until they come back. So they checked on you regularly. We were really impressed with the quality of service that we received in Medellin.
These are both absolutely beautiful cities, and they are great choices if you are planning a move to Latin America.
If you prefer a more modern city with all of the amenities, great service, lower elevation, and direct flights back to the U.S., then you might like Medellin better.
But if you prefer a smaller city with a slower pace of life, great restaurants, cooler temperatures, a little bit higher level of safety, and you prefer spending in US dollars, then Cuenca might be the right place for you.
Let us know in the comments below which one you think comes out on top.
If you're already a patron and you are watching this before everybody else, thank you so much for your support. We truly appreciate it.
Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we will see you all next month. Ciao.
Ciao.